Okay, so Susie Warran-Smith, CBE DL, so Commander of the Order of the British Empire, Deputy Lieutenant, designer, marketeer, communications guru, director in a big
Granny.
bank at one point, uh, executive director at Ernst & Young at one point, broadcaster, author, speaker, lecturer, campaigner, Ned for government, for HMRC, for the British Library, chair and trustee, lots of other things. And then also at 55, not that long ago, launched an award-winning business that you sold for a heap of money after just 5 years. And then again, lots more besides all of that. So, wow, Susie, I'm just really pleased that you're here and that we can have this conversation. Is that a fair introduction?
I suppose I'm 64 now, so you would expect quite a bit to have happened in the last 40 years. Um, if you'd have said all that and I was 24, you'd obviously be an incredibly big-headed, arrogant person. But over 40 years, lots of things change, and I've always just taken opportunities if I could. So when you trot it out in a line like that, it sounds a lot, but honestly, it's just stuff that's come along.
Well, that's very humble of you, I think, and but I do think it's amazing um, what you have accomplished, and we'll get into all of that in this conversation, I hope, because I think in a way, perhaps the more meaningful aspect of it is all the things that you've learned along the way, and I think you have got a really, really, um, really kind of fascinating perspective. You did write a book not that long ago, Something on My Own, and I know this conversation isn't about kind of promoting a book or anything like that, but I did just read it. I read it twice actually, and it was striking to me because yes, it was absolutely a business manifesto, which is what I was expecting, which is what does it take to lead and build a successful business, celebrating the potential for leaders in business to be the heroes in our economy, and then how to be successful without, I mean, to put it bluntly, without being a bastard, basically. And I thought, and that was in a way the book I was expecting to read, but it was an equal part also, and this might not be the right framing, but the framing that keeps coming to my mind is a feminist manifesto, like a really incisive account of abuse, inequality, injustice, kind of societally, in business, personally. And then and you say it so clearly at the outset of the book, like you wanted to write a book that specifically is an account of what inequality feels like rather than looks like. And to be honest, I found that surprising. I wasn't expecting all of that, and I found it quite shocking, but also quite sort of awakening, really. Like as this account of, I'm framing it as like abuse, equality, and injustice. And so anyway, that's just kind of what I'm coming into the conversation with like all of that in my mind.
It just makes me sound like a really boring person. It's just, I think there's so many highbrow debates and people taking offence, and people are over here and another person's here, and we're all the same, really. And for me, it's like if we just explain how things feel when something happens, maybe it'll make the other person realise that first of all, you're not that far away from them, but also the effect somebody's behaviour has. And it seems to me at the moment, it seems quite okay just to sling a load of insults at people, which I don't think is acceptable at all. Um, and I think that we all struggle. Life is hard for everybody. Everybody's gone through something that's pretty awful. Um, and the best way to get through that is to be kind to the people that you come across and the people that you touch. So I'm not a campaigner, Sam, with a national profile, because I don't want to do that. I find that uncomfortable. I think I'm just a campaigner for people to say, think about your own community and where you are and the people you come into contact with. And if you can be a good citizen and a good person in that respect, that's enough. That's okay. So I shy away from the big sweeping national stuff. Just me and my world and people I come across is enough in order to make an impact with the things that you believe. But you must do them with respect. Utterly, you must do them with respect and humour, I think, and humour. And I didn't want to write the book to make money because nobody makes money out of books except for the odd person. I used to go and talk an awful lot, and I still do. And so many people said, "Oh, can you write that down? Have you got notes? Can you give me your notes?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't really have any." And so I wrote it down so that I could just give it to somebody so that they could listen rather than take notes. And I've done it so that it's free on Kindle, and it's free as a podcast because I don't want to make money out of it. I just want to, perhaps if it helps somebody, it's worth it. You have to charge money on Amazon because it costs you that much. So I think it's 4p for every book I sell, which is fine because that's not what it's about. And again, it's not about me pushing forward, some type of famous person, which I have absolutely no desire to be. It's just if you can reach somebody and it helps, that's really worth it. I mean, I'm slightly worried you read it twice, Sam. You obviously haven't got enough to do in your life, but yeah, that was the point of it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes. It's not a long book, I have to say. But I found it like it was in a way kind of difficult to read, just in that I felt it was quite uncomfortable to read at times, because I think you're describing obviously some very uncomfortable experiences, and then I thought it was really interesting the way that you were setting your experience, both like you were definitely setting it culturally, and I thought that was it's kind of interesting for me because although we're we're a few years apart, but I was sort of recognizing the culture that you were describing. It was a kind of also the culture of my childhood, and kind of like that thing of going, yeah, no, of course that was totally normal. Like I didn't even think that was weird, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah, absolutely.
it's like, yeah, no, but that is weird. And so on one hand, it was that cultural piece, but then it was also just so deeply personal, and I found that that was quite challenging to read in some ways. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I think I think in terms of the personal stuff, I am quite a private person, which you may find extraordinary if you write a book about your personal experiences. But it did seem to me that you can't explain, particularly to other women, but also to men, but particularly to women, uh, how you can manage to succeed in business if you don't try and set it in the context of all the other things that they're trying to do, all the other things that they're juggling, and all the horrible things that they're going through, or all the good things that they're going through. And so it felt to me the only way to do that was to do that context. I cannot tell you, Sam, I literally get hundreds of emails, messages saying, "You've just told my story."
Mm.
So many times people go, "You've just articulated most of which I've
Mm.
gone through." And I found that quite extraordinary. But it's true. A lot of women saying to me, "That's exactly what happened to me. That's exactly what
Mm.
happened." And actually, it's nice to read something where somebody explains that and goes, "Yeah, but I'm not giving in. I'm just going to plow on. I'm not giving in. I'm not a snowflake. I'm not whatever. I'm going to go for it. I'm not going to let this beat me." Um, in a quiet way, not in a, you know, bullying, shouty way, but I'm determined quietly that I'm going to work my way through this. I think we need a bit more of that in society at the moment, by the way. And the point of the book is to say, actually, by doing that, I won. I won.
Mm.
And it's really interesting because my children are in their mid-30s, both girls, and they're going, "Yeah, Mum, we won." And that's how they look at it. They go, all these people who tried, to keep you down, discriminated against you, said you weren't good enough. You've quietly gone there and you've managed to get through it. And so I'm here and I won. I just wanted to write the book to say you can do it. God, if I can do it, anybody can. You just got to keep, you just got to keep going at it. Try not to doubt yourself because it does affect your confidence many times. And that's the point of the book, to show the ups and downs that I've been through. And it's like, I just keep going, get up, dress up,
Mm.
show up, keep going, keep going. and eventually you can manage it.
It's so powerful, Susie. It really is. And yeah, I mean, I guess kind of vicariously as I was reading it, I was recognizing, I think, some of my wife's experiences as well. Um, yeah. So there's lots I want to get into there, and that kind of determination you speak to, I want to get into that as well. But
So much. I think the interesting thing is, so my husband, he said, "I've never seen discrimination at work." I, he's 2 years older than me, and I went, that's just crap. It's just rubbish. You didn't see it because you weren't looking for it, and you
Mm,
didn't notice it." Uh, and he said it's completely changed my frame of how I'd looked at things. And he said, "No, I've gone back now into my working past." And he said, "And I've now realised that that thing I saw was actually that, and I didn't clock it up like that at all." And he's the kindest, nicest man you could ever meet.
mm,
And he's saying I wasn't noticing that by that other people were doing that. And of course, you can get females that are bullied as well as males. But said, in particular, that discrimination of women, I just wasn't open to it. I wasn't looking for it. I was a really nice guy who lives down the road from me here. He's in his 80s, had quite a successful business career. He read it, and I was dreading it. I was thinking, oh gosh, he's gonna just think I'm some awful, I don't know, bra burning, or whatever, feminist person, always gonna hate it. Anyway, he came round to see me, and he went, "I just realised some of the things that I did, not
mm,
not terrible, terrible things, but some of the things I did was actually really not very helpful for women at all, and you've really changed the way I've thought about it."
mm.
And I think telling stories about how it feels means that you're not waving a flag to make a point. Somebody gets inside what it's like to be you, and they go, "Oh, that's awful. That's really terrible." And that's enough to make your point. Honestly, you know, a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
flag waving going on at the moment in the UK, as you know, and that's fine. But I'm not sure it's always the greatest way to make your point.
Yeah, my goodness. Well, and you're speaking to so much there, Susie, and I think part of what you're speaking to is that kind of mastery that you've developed over your kind of professional uh, career of being able to communicate in that way, of like understanding how you can communicate such that it lands and people can actually hear it. And I love that distinction. Like I say, you were so clear at the outset of the book. This is going to be about what it feels like, not what it looks like. And yeah, it does. It was really, really powerful in that way. Caesar, I wonder if what we could do here is I would love to just kind of, in a way, start at the beginning, not of the book, although the book does start here, but like really start the beginning of your story and like what were you born into? Like just speak about that. And because I think that was also very evocative and powerful in that initial, like what you were born into, that backdrop.
So when I was writing the book, I was really worried about starting off with how I was brought up because first of all, I thought it was quite boring, really. Uh, and it's like, oh, look at me, a poor kid in inner city London. That's not really what I wanted to project. What I wanted to, which is why I was thinking about it for such a long time. What I wanted to project is the fact that the context was different. Society was different. What you could say was different. Exactly what you were saying earlier, Sam. And there's a lot of people saying, well, you can't say that now. And you shouldn't have said that then. But it's like, but that's how it was then. I couldn't take myself out of that environment and act differently. It's quite hard because all of society is like that. And the things that were allowed in the 70s, I mean, honestly, we look back now and it's just, I can't believe it. But that's how it was at the time. You can't pull yourself out of it. So I did feel that I just had to quickly go through that at the beginning of the book, not in a sort of, I don't know, woe is me, but I felt like I had to try and create that environment just so people could understand. And, I was born in 1961 and it was really different. I mean, the changes through my lifetime, let alone my mum's lifetime, has been extraordinary, really. And trying to keep up with that and trying to keep reinventing yourself is very much part of the business journey. of success in business is being able to constantly reinvent yourself and constantly changing, constantly seeing what's coming around the corner. So I was brought up in, you know, my granddad was in prison. Uh, my mum used to say he was a bit of a card. That's what we used to say then. Oh, your granddad's a bit of a card. Yeah, he's a criminal, though, mum, isn't he, really? Um, uh, he was a painter and decorator. We all lived in the middle of London. The family's always been poor, as a lot of working class people were. It was really hard. Uh, we we were born. I was born in Southwest 4 in London, and like everybody I knew, we lived in 3 rooms with an outside toilet and no bathroom, and that was not extraordinary by any means. But my mum and dad worked and always thought you should work. The key for them was getting educated. They thought that was the most important thing you could do to get out
Interesting.
of it,
Yeah.
was to get educated. But I went to a really rough school, and I got beaten up my first day when I was 5, because I was really short for my age, and I had big, fat National Health glasses, and was easy to pick on. And I think it became very apparent to me early on that if I wanted to not get beaten up all the time is to be funny. So I just used to develop this sense of humour, really. Um, and that was the backdrop. I actually think I was incredibly lucky in that I was in the 60s when I went to school. It was the Windrush generation. So huge number of kids in my school were black. And I was completely and utterly brought up in a multicultural society, which I feel really proud of, actually. And it was very normal for us. It would not have been the same if you'd have been born in Preston in the 60s, for example.
Mhm.
But it was very normal for us to have, you know, Indian kids, kids from the Caribbean. It was quite normal. So it was very much this melting pot, which I didn't notice because it's normal to me. Um, and I found that very helpful in my life as well, about watching other people be discriminated against. And I couldn't understand why. Why is that?
Mm.
Oh, yeah, well, maybe it's because the colour of skin's different, but, like, well, that's not a good enough reason, is it? It's just not.
Mm.
And so I was brought up very much like that. I'm not gonna get into a migration debate today. I have mixed feelings about that, but I think at the time, it was a stunning thing to be brought up in London, a multicultural society, and I really think that helped me and the way I thought about things, and it made me grow up with a big sense of injustice. I hate it when things are not fair, and I wonder if being brought up like that is part of it. But when it's not fair, I can't stand it. I find it really hard to keep quiet. It's not fair. Mm.
Well, that to me is the kind of golden thread, really, of, or what, at least one of the golden threads through the book that you write, which is that deep sense of where things are unjust and there is inequality, and that sense of just like, this is not right. I can't stand for it. I have to stand up in some ways to that. Yeah, and so I was kind of
I
I was
have got
curious where
better
that
at that,
came
though,
from.
Sam. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have got better though, Sam, because what I do now is I go, right, vengeance is best eaten cold. As I've got older, I've got a bit more patience. It's like, that person does it, I will get them back, or I will make an adjustment of that
Ooh. Wow.
later at the
Yeah.
right time. Because
Oh, yeah.
sounding off on one's not going to do it. So you get a bit sneakier and wilier as you get older, and it's like, I'm going to
Yeah.
find a way of putting that right quietly when the time is right.
Wow. Yeah, and you do shout out particular individuals, don't you? And I thought that was, and that was obviously like a decision you made, like, no, I'm gonna name people, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so far I haven't had a lawsuit, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
discount it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, why should people get away with stuff?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to let you. Not
Yeah.
going to let you.
Susie, just on that kind of those early years, just as a side note, the outside toilet thing was kind of evocative for me, because although, like, I just remember those from living in London, and it wasn't that we only had an outside toilet; we had the inside bathroom, and
Of course you did.
all very nice. But the outside toilet was still there, and I remember that. And it would be, it was like attached to the house that you went outside to go to the outside toilet, and it was like a
Yeah,
little
full
sort
of
of
spiders.
little lean-to shed
Nightmare.
full of spiders. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And it was sort of so, and you were kind of I just felt like there was this, you were kind of drawing this kind of historical thread for me, and then it kind of was going back to your grandparents with, they were the kind of tail end of the Second World War, and then the kind of deep poverty of that as well, and then yeah, like both your parents were raised basically by lone parents, as far as I could figure out. Like one granddad was in prison, the other granddad died young because he had been a laborer from the age of 12, died at
Mhm.
50. And it's kind of that sort of, like you say, like that background of poverty.
Sam, that's normal. That wasn't extraordinary.
Well,
And I
exactly,
didn't feel it was extraordinary either. It's just like,
exactly.
oh, well, that's how it is. And there are loads of people living in poverty at the moment, but I don't think it's what it was then. I mean, materially, people's lives are way, 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 way different. My generation get a lot of flack for saying, well, you've blown up our legacy and, things that was, yeah, but do you know where we started from?
Mm.
Do you know what healthcare was like? Do you know, it's come the most extraordinary way in terms of the standards of living are extraordinary in my lifetime, how they've changed, let alone my parents. Um, so I just thought it's an important thing to show, actually.
Yeah, yeah, no, I've
Not
really
about
got.
me, but just like that's the context.
I totally got that, and it was that sense of this is the context, this is the backdrop, um,
And
and
for
then
me as well, if I set that starting point, it shows that even though I was like this week, I've been to the House of Lords for a cup of tea with some Earl of something or other. Uh, and sitting there amongst all those incredibly privileged people, it's like, but I come from back there, and I'm
yeah,
here now.
yeah, yeah,
And so that was the point of the book to say, you can do it. You can do it.
yeah,
My kids
yeah,
say that when I go through things like that, there'll be like a lightning bolt from God because, like, you're not allowed in. People like you're not allowed in, but it's like, no, that's okay. I've got in, and it's fine.
yeah, yeah. It's amazing, Susie. It really is,
I
and
just want
that's
that to be inspiring, though, Sam. I just like don't put barriers in your way. You can
yeah.
do it.
No, it totally is, Susie, and like the whole vibe of the book is totally not like, it doesn't feel at all like an ego expression of ego at all. It doesn't communicate like
No,
that.
and I'm not a
It's
victim either. So.
no, no, it doesn't communicate like that either. It is absolutely something that's inspiring, and I think really honest as well. And yeah, very personal. And you talk about your parents. It's interesting. You said your parents, in some ways, you felt very lucky. Your parents, I mean, they were married for until your, it was whatever it was, almost 50 years, wasn't it? Until your dad died in
Mhm.
2007. Um, and then it sounds like they were very committed parents. They were committed to you and your brother, and then they championed education. That was going to be the big thing. Like, we really
They didn't
value
know
that.
what it was, though, Sam.
No.
They didn't know what education was, but it's like, oh, you got to get educated. That's the only way you can get out. But they
Yeah.
didn't actually know what that was because nobody had been educated in our family. So they just thought it was, you know, one of the steps that you could manage to get out. I think.
But like your dad he had passed his exams to get into grammar school, but he couldn't
Mhm.
take it up because he had to go and work basically, or he couldn't.
Oh, my grandmother. I had two grandmothers. Obviously, one I just worshipped. I loved her,
Yeah.
and we used to laugh a lot. And I think we were very similar. I know this other grandma was a nightmare, basically, and she wasn't funny, and she was always complaining. But she was one of eight or something. Her mother was illiterate. She was working. I mean, honestly, then her husband died. I mean, it's just like it was just
Mm.
awful. But she was joyless. So awful, awful. And of course, with that background, even though my dad passed, to go to some really impressive school, she was going, "I don't care, mate. You're
Okay.
out to work. We need the
Yeah.
money. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Sorry." And so I want to blame her for that because I didn't particularly like her, but I can
Mm.
understand it. Completely understand it. And my other auntie, who's still alive, she's 91. The most amazing person. She loves art, which you'll like to know, Sam. She went to work as an apprentice at Norman Hartnell's, which obviously is a fashion house at the time, because she was 5'7", 5'8", and very slim. So she, they used to use her
Mm,
quite a lot for modelling clothes and stuff like that.
mm.
But then she got chucked out of that because she had to go, and there wasn't enough money, so she had to.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine my auntie, who I still see, um, she's sleeping in a bed with her 4 other sisters, like one bed. Like, these people are still alive.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
that's how they were brought up. These people are still alive.
Yeah. 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 It was, and yeah, and yeah. So again, it's like that. I love that thread that you painted of like it's like the living memory still, or the almost living memory, and just creating those connecting dots. And so coming up in that backdrop of, um, let's just call it poverty, um, as something that's very normal. And then you've got these two parents who are they're basically, I mean, how would you describe them? They're very kind of loving parents to you and your
Yeah, yeah.
brother. Yeah,
I enjoyed my childhood, and I didn't think
yeah,
it was different to anybody else's. It's only when you get older and you go, "Oh, that person lives in a house with a," start going around to people's houses for tea or something. You suddenly realise that some people live differently.
yeah,
Um, but I think, controversially, I'm going to say this. My generation get a little bit annoyed, especially people who've been brought up like me, when somebody complains because they can't have an iPhone or it's like, for God's sake,
mhm,
you don't understand how far we've come, and how I know a lot of people are struggling, but in the comparison of the struggle is quite different, I think. And we need to make sure we help people in that position. Of course we do. But it's still better than it was, honestly, still better than it was.
yeah,
And we should never rest on that laurel, but it is still better than it was. And I would like to see a few more people, go for it and stop complaining.
mm. Interesting. Well, maybe we can get into, as we go through this conversation, what that means to go for it as well.
Mm.
Um, and just to before we kind of move on in the story, just thinking about that young Susie. So, like your dad, I was kind of intrigued to know a bit more about your dad. Like, what was that? Because your dad, he sounded like someone who he was obviously intellectually pretty switched on, um, but then he kind of had to go into essentially kind of what manual labor or sort of yeah labor
He's a maintenance man.
maintenance man.
Maintenance
Okay, yeah. So he's
man.
maintenance man, and but a guy who kind of always did the crossword, that kind of thing. So he's and then what was it like? Like, what was your relationship like with him? What was was he kind of present and involved, or was
Yeah,
it
yeah.
remote?
So my dad used to work shifts, so because you earned more money doing that. So he's
Mm,
doing a three week pattern. So he'd work 6 till 2 one week, then 2 till 10 the next week, and 10 till 6 the next week. So that because he was a maintenance guy in a factory. So obviously the
mm,
factory's got to keep running all the time. Um, and I describe him in the book as a feminist, because
mm,
there is no way he ever said to me, "Well, you can't do that because you're a girl." And now I look back at that, that was quite extraordinary at the time as well. It's like, no, 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 you need to get educated. Whereas lots of people in those days go, "There's no point in you getting educated. You're going to grammar school because you're going to get married. So no point in you being able to, go to the university or something." And so I think he was quite extraordinary in that he just like, "No, no, no, you can do it, go for it." Um,
mm.
and uh, I don't know, I just felt it was normal, but everybody's normals are not, different
Yeah.
from somebody else's normal. But no, we just, we go camping on holidays at Isle of Wight on summer, and just I just, you know,
Yeah.
that's all I remember really. Um,
But that's interesting, Susie, because I think there's something in there is something, isn't there, about having that kind of secure base,
yeah,
which counts for so much. It probably counts more than having an amazing house. I mean, you know what I mean? Like there's that having that sense of like anchor of I've got parents who are involved, interested, supporting, cheering me on kind of thing. Like that,
Yeah.
it just creates a strong sense of like there's a secure platform here, right?
And I think that's my point about people not having all the thing, so have many more things than I did as a kid. None of that really matters if you've got a really chaotic, home life and background.
Mm.
That really knocks your chances, I think. And for me, whilst we didn't have anything much, we did have a stable background, and actually that's a great platform. But
Mm.
if you're really struggling financially and you don't have two parents who are getting on and things that, then you're gonna it's just very hard,
Mm.
because the role model thing is, it's not really there. And for me it was just normal that everybody got up, went to work, get ready, come back. So, the model is, oh, that's what you do then. You get up, you get ready, you go to work, and then you do that, and then you come back, and then, so that was my upbringing, and that's what I saw. And everybody in my family worked, every single person.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
not great
Yeah, yeah.
jobs, but every single person worked. And I just thought that was the norm. If you don't have that norm, it is hard. It's really hard to work out your trajectory and what you're supposed to do and how that's going to work. Um, and of course, even though my, my parents did seem a bit stressed about money and stuff, my mum still read me a book at bedtime or those sorts of
Mm.
things. And that's what gives you an amazing start, I think.
Yeah, and you again, I think you just described so well that the kind of paradigm, if you like, the personal paradigm that got embedded for you, which is that okay, like you get up, you get ready, you go to work, you get on, and then you do it all again, and you keep going. And because that was the example in a way, from the
Well,
get
I
go.
was just drummed into me that if you don't go out, you don't get any money.
Yeah,
Right, that was it.
yeah, yeah.
So what you can do, starve, so I just assumed that was, so I had jobs since I was 12, like my parents, and it's just like, oh, okay. Well, if I want anything, I've got to go and work for it. And that was just absolutely drummed into you. You can't have anything unless you work for it.
So you had that kind of powerful kind of like motivation, if you like, or just inbuilt sort of sense of this is how things roll, this is how I roll. You also had a kind of strong sense that it was important to get an education, like your parents were behind that. They had messaged that. And then, as you got to the end of school, your teachers are going, "Oh, you're not the
I
5% that
wasn't
goes
very,
to uni."
wasn't very bright. No, I wasn't very
Well,
bright.
well, I mean, what yeah, but I mean, you clearly are bright, but like whatever in
There's
that
different types
context,
of bright, Sam.
different types. Yeah, exactly.
I was rubbish at school.
But you had a
I just,
determination that despite that, I'm still going to get a higher education. Like that's going to be important. I'm going to find my way into.
yeah, but I worked out the only way to do that is because I could draw. I could go to art college.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, okay, that's a sneaky way of getting educated. Go and sit drawing all day, marvellous.
yeah.
I did, because there's no way I could get an English degree or go to proper university. I just wasn't capable of that
But it seemed to me
in those
that
days.
you created a neat solution workaround for the predicament you found yourself in, but it was motivated by I want to get that higher education. That's important. Like I want to get that next step.
I didn't question it.
Yeah.
You question lots of things when you're older. I didn't question it. It's like, oh, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do then.
Yeah.
Just didn't question it. I just like, you know, okay, that's how you get on. Right. Well, I better find a way of doing that then.
Mm. So then you then go to art college, you do that, and then I'm going to sort of speed through this a little bit, but you it's not long after art college, it's that you actually meet your person who then becomes your husband, right? You're then into marriage not that long after graduating. Is that fair?
So I met him just before I graduated. Yes, I was 22.
Right. And so then you're
Scary
into
stuff.
yeah, amazing. Like it's certainly scary when you've got a
Well,
20-year-old.
but no, but it isn't, because my mum got married, at 19. My auntie got married at 17. My grandmother got married at 18. It wasn't extraordinary. My grandmother was a grandmother at 39. Just In the context of it, I've waited quite a while, really.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Clock's ticking. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, no, my granny was, I think, 40, early, well, 42 maybe when I was born. My mum got married at 19.
Mm,
It's kind of nice because you get to know your grandparents. It's kind of fun.
mm.
Um, but um, but then and then you describe a really like complex relationship with your husband, and obviously that was a long relationship. Um, you had, but it was complex because, I mean, I'm doing like a massive sweeping sort of overview here, but basically you describe the kind of, there's abuse, there's kind of codependent, that it's like it's committed but it's unhappy, it's sort of there's some ways in which he's encouraging and devoted in some ways, but also he's unfaithful, controlling, abusive. There's kind of psychological, physical, it's a physical, verbal. It's like it's a lot, and then but you guys stay together, you raise kids, it's
34
okay, yeah,
years.
34
34
years.
years.
He's kind of, you describe him as being a good father, but then he's also kind of like a terrible husband, and then there are some ways in which you kind of went, well, he's a good man, but he's a terrible man. It was complicated. There was a lot going on in that relationship, right?
Yeah, it was really confusing. But
Yeah,
when he was good, he was amazing.
right.
When he was bad, it was terrible. And I mean, nowadays you'd say he was mentally ill, which of course he was, but
Mm.
he didn't have that classification then and didn't get that help. So, he was just, yeah. You can't choose who you love, Sam.
Do you know, Susie, I found it so moving, when you describe going to see him and he's on his deathbed and you've separated. And honestly, I feel very moved just referring to it. It was such a touching account of what you just said, like that you can't help who you love. Um, yeah, and again, there's something so powerful in the way you tell the story, like what it felt like to be in that relationship, and that you could at the same time be navigating all the shit that was in it, and at the same time saying, "This is a man that I still love." And even after I determine that I've left him, I need to do that. You could also be there at his bedside at the end.
Yeah.
I think that's
Well,
extraordinary.
well, not really. People are complicated. And the
Mm.
problem is if you have a relationship with somebody like that, they can be so horrible one day, and then the next day they're amazing and you're having a great time, and it's like, oh, so confusing. Maybe I over exaggerated how bad he was yesterday because we're having a great time today.
Mm.
It is quite confusing, I think. Um, and the overriding thing for me is I've got to try and make this work because I don't want children being brought up in a family that's in pieces. I don't want that. And that was more important to me than how I felt, wrongly or
Well,
rightly.
that was going to be my question, Susie. Like, what enabled you to keep going? To keep
Because it would
going?
be good one time and then it would be bad another time. It was never all bad.
Yeah.
You just, you go, well, did that actually happen? It's really nice today. I don't know how. Did that happen? And don't forget, we grew up together. I mean, I was 22,
Yeah.
Dave was 30, and I was 55, 56. I mean, you know, that's a very long time to be with somebody. And the way you're intertwined is really difficult to unravel. It's catastrophic when you have to. It's a really hard thing to do, particularly if you're female, to unravel all that. It's really tough.
Well, I think it really spoke to me of a kind of inner toughness. That I'm sure it was lots of things, but it also to me really spoke to that kind of inner toughness and resilience, that like you have this ability to keep going, to keep getting up the next day,
Well, what else are
it,
you going to do, Sam? Well,
right.
what else are you going to do? Well, if I
Well,
just stay in bed and not get out, well, that's okay. But I've got loads of people I'm employing. That's not going to work.
yeah.
And actually, in my opinion, feeling sorry for yourself is not, it doesn't help.
No.
I only
No,
got
but
one life. Well, you've just got one life. This is it. And, might as well make the most of it. And the reason for writing the book is we all feel like that. We all sit on the floor and go, I don't think I can do this today. I just
yeah,
don't think I can. And it's like, no, come on, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And I think that's what resonates with so many people when they're reading. It's like, I felt like that.
yeah.
I felt like that. I made myself do it. And it's like, don't give in to it. Don't give in to it. Don't.
And there's something there about when that really, like when that connects with like a principle that you've determined. Like, so, I've got people depending on me, or, whatever that principle might be, like then there's just like a real clear commitment, like that you're gonna
Well,
get over whatever's telling you to
not
stay in
really.
bed.
It makes it easier. If
Makes it
nobody's
easier.
relying on you, then you haven't got a reason to get out of bed. If you've got commitments, you've got to get out of bed. Because otherwise you've got to phone somebody up and tell them that you can't, or explain to somebody why they can't get paid that week, or whatever it is. So in a way, Sam, ironically, it's easier to carry on when you've got those commitments because you don't really have any choice. It's much harder if you're on your own, you're lonely. What's your incentive to get out of bed then? So ironically, with all those pressures, it's actually easier to carry on. Might make you more knackered, but in a way, it makes you.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think that comes through really powerfully in on the professional side, like as you're progressing professionally, that there are a lot of headwinds, and you've got this imperative to keep going. But I think there probably were plenty of opportunities for you to probably step out in some way, or step back, or, I imagine there were a lot of different paths you could have taken, but you had that kind
Mhm.
of determination despite all the shit that you were being confronted with. And right from the get-go, like again, it's like right from the get-go in in work, you're just being met with, just the sexual harassment and abuse is like right from the start, is what I was reading, what I was understanding.
But I think because I have this really strong thing about not things not being fair,
Mhm.
not just to myself but for other people. It's like I'm just not going to give in. Well, I'm just
Mm.
not going to give in. Now that might be really stupid, but I don't know where that comes from, Sam. And it's just like I'm just not. I'm not going to give in. You won't. You won't browbeat me. You just won't. And I might not stand up for myself right at that time or whatever, but I will find a way around it, and I will get there eventually.
I love that. I like, it's so powerful. Yeah, I'm not going to give in,
No, I'm
and
not. I'm still not.
still not giving in.
Still not. Hello.
But there was a lot of shit, and and you,
Everybody has that, Sam.
well, like you say, like
Everybody has that in their life.
you've been getting so many people messaging you
Yeah.
saying that was my
Mm.
experience too, and yeah, but I found it hard to read, to be honest, and like I said, I think some
But
of
you're a
the
softie, Sam.
I'm a softie.
But
Yeah.
you're a really nice, educated man. And we've met a few times, and you are, you have great morals and great ethics, and that is why you find that stuff hard. You find it really hard. That's why you find it hard.
Mm. Do you think it's changing? Like, in what ways do you think it's different? Like, because I'm also conscious that, like, there's the experience that you had coming up through, coming into the workplace, like in the sort of the 80s, and then there's the experience my wife had, coming into the workplace, kind of end of the 90s. Um, and then there's the experience that women will be having now coming into the workplace. And I sort of wonder, like, in what ways do you think that might be the same challenge, and in what ways might it be a different challenge or changed?
So it's nice to go on the tube and not get groped every day. which is now called sexual assault, of course. So that's nice.
Yeah, right.
That's
Yeah,
not acceptable anymore. But
yeah,
it used to be. It was just regularly you would get, we used to call it groping then as well. Now,
yeah.
that obviously isn't acceptable. So that's good. That's a good thing. So I think women are a bit more protected physically at work. It doesn't mean so it doesn't go on though. Um, and I think the workplace hasn't changed a lot if you've got a company run by old blokes.
Mhm.
It's just driven their behaviour underground, or they go, "Oh well, you lot." Da, da." So I do find that people are in their 60s, 70s who are still at the top of companies don't get it, don't really believe that women should be in that position. Not everybody, of course, but when you tend to go into a company where the management is a bit younger, it's so much better. Because I think it is a generational and contextual thing. Um, and it is hard to change your behavior when you've been brought up like I have in the 60s and 70s. It's like,
Mm.
don't understand why that's okay then and not okay now, uh, which is not particularly intelligent. But I can understand where they're fine. I don't know what the rules are anymore, and I find it very difficult to navigate. But I do think as we're going down the generations, that's getting better. I think people in their 30s, uh, men in their 30s, are seeing their mums going to work, seeing their sisters do things. And so for their context, it's different. They don't,
Mm.
a lot of guys I see in that just don't understand why somebody would discriminate against them. They just don't understand it. Um, and then I think you get alpha males,
Mhm.
female alphas as well, who they're just bastards and they just want to, drive their way through. That is not how you get on,
Mm.
not in my opinion. And I'm not sure you'll ever get rid of those types of people. But if you look at funding, the small number of women who get funding for businesses is awful.
Yeah.
2-3%. Like, why is that then? They can't all be crap. You're not telling me that 97% of men deserve funding and only 2 or 3% of women. That can't be right. So there's loads of stuff underneath that's going on, and I think a lot of it is not uh, deliberate. I hate that thing, unconscious bias, but I think I've been to a few things where they've been coaching women how to present better to a panel of men. It's like I'm going, no, that is not what you do. You coach the men to understand that women will present in a different way, and therefore you make allowances for certain things, given that a bloke's going to exaggerate mostly. And
Mm.
therefore, if you're more aware of the different styles, you can then make better decisions. Stop coaching women to be like men.
Mhm.
It's insane. Um, so I think there's a lot of stuff that people are trying to understand and get to grips with, and not understanding that certain things will put women off before they even start. So if you can, that's why I wanted to write this book about what it feels. If you can understand how somebody feels, you can look at ways in which you can embrace that and make sure you get the top talent, whatever that might be, not based on anything other than whether somebody's good or not. That's all you need to base it on. Um, so if you can just do that, I don't care whether somebody's orange, black, yellow, white. I just couldn't care less. You shouldn't even see it. You shouldn't even see it. And it's the same with somebody's female, heterosexual. I just don't care. Are you a good person and are you going to do my job? That's it. I don't need legislation for that, Sam.
Yeah.
And if you legislate, it's you're admitting that some people don't think like that. So what we've got to do is get people to understand what it feels like, and then try and look at ways in which we can encourage the best talent, whatever that talent is, and making the path for that talent to come through. So you haven't got people like me who's got to fight all their life just to get
Mm.
through it.
Yeah, and it is about becoming more conscious, but it's like realizing the things that we don't see. I thought you framed it so well, that the kind of cultural paradigm of, back in the day, a man trying to abuse wasn't wrong. Like giving it a go, that wasn't wrong.
No, that's fine.
It's like, no, that's okay. Like, give it a
Trying
go.
wasn't wrong.
And trying wasn't wrong. But then, how the woman deals with it, that could be wrong, or it could be right. Like, it's really for the woman to navigate that. Yeah. I thought that was so sort of incisive. Like, that because that just becomes the kind of, no one even realizes that they're buying into that. It's just, that's the way people are. That's the way we roll. And then hopefully that's evolving. But there will be the ways that we roll now that we're not seeing, we're not understanding. Right.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm to some extent, I'm going to get great pleasure out of my daughters who are in their 30s. If I live this long, right, and then they're in the 60s and they start saying the wrong things, I'll be so pleased about that, Sam.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to say that anymore.
Yeah.
So we'll all we'll all be like that as we move forward.
And then it feeds you. You kind of talk about how it feeds into it's like men are going to design from the male perspective. They're going to operate from the male. So, like with products and systems, and then you mentioned like, it turns out that all plumbing equipment, a lot of like the wrenches are just the wrong size for female hands. They're just not the right size. Or I love the bit you did around toilet facilities, like 50-50 allocation of space, and yet every single like theatre performance or whatever you go to, there's always a line of women outside the toilets.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah, like, what
sick
is
of it. It's like if you want to look at discrimination, go to any hotel, go to any concert, go to any theatre thing, and look at women queuing up to go to the toilet
every time.
I literally want to scream.
And yet we're still kind of going, when we're doing the design, we're still going, yeah, we'll have the same amount of space for the men's toilets as for the women's toilets. And that makes sense.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Just if you can get inside how somebody feels and you understand how the behaviours work, you'd have sorted that out. You'd have worked out the fact that, women have to take clothes off. They might have a kid with them. They've got to sort their mum out. They wash their hands. Probably men don't. Blah blah blah. All in all, we spend 2.3 times more time in the toilet than men, but we have the same space. It's like, I hate you. I hate you for that. Whoever does it, I hate you.
Does it? Yeah, no, it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah.
You also just on the kind of discrimination side of things and the inequality of it all, you make the distinction between the social harassment and workplace harassment. You kind of draw a distinction between them. Like there's kind of harassment abuse that happens kind of socially, and then there's the harassment abuse that happens in the workplace. And you make the point that really it was the workplace, like the tipping point came for the workplace. So at least, and certainly for you personally, you're like, look, I'm not going to stand for that in the workplace. In a way, before personally, but I thought you were kind of making a personal point about what you personally experienced, but also a kind of societal point. Like we kind of, Me Too happened in a way in relation to the workplace, not in relation to personal relationships. Certainly in the first instance.
Well, I just think it's harder to police the personal relationships thing, and of course at work, it's different. And I think for me, that was the tipping point. It's like, people, I'm not putting up with this work anymore, and I have somebody to go to. Whereas socially, who do you go to? Somebody does that. I don't know. So for me, I think that was the tipping point. I was never. I know this sounds weird now at my age and being a bit more bullish, but when I was younger, I would never call it out. I was too shy I wouldn't call it out, and lots of people won't. So now you can and be a bit more protected, but there wasn't such a thing as anybody to go to. And I think I do say in the book, if I got harassed at work, who do I go to? There's nobody, because it's all run by the same people, so they're not going to listen to you. And that's changed, which is a good thing. It's not something I particularly want to highlight. I mean, I don't think the book is about abuse.
I do think it's about injustice, though, and inequality.
I can't help that because I don't like it and things are unfair. I
Um,
can't
and
help it.
yeah,
I mean, for me, it's a book about how you run a business and how you see your way through that. Even when you've got all this stuff going on behind you, how you can navigate your way through it. And I think that's what I was trying to do.
well, I want to get into that, Susie. So let's get into that, the business side of things. And yeah, so like it seemed like you were developing as you progressed professionally. You were developing a whole lot of skills, knowledge, etc. That eventually were then going to be, well, they were going to be foundational in when you set up your own business. That you were also kind of developing, I think, this kind of mastery around influencing behavior as well, like that whole, the psychology and the strategy of communication and how you can influence, and then like that, that feeds into, how you can sell, um, and all of that. So there's just a lot that you were, I think, developing real mastery in. Like, it's a bit of a vague question, but like, what when you look back at that because at the time it may not have felt very strategic that you were making, going sideways here, there, and everywhere kind of thing. But actually, there were these threads, weren't there, where it was
Yeah,
informed
so
by this
so
kind of in particular interest.
mm. So I went to art college um, because I could draw, and it meant I could get a degree without having to write too much. Um, and that has shaped every single thing I do in business all the time. Because the point of being a designer, so I didn't go into fine art, I was a graphic designer. The point of being a designer is communicating really difficult concepts in just a sheet of paper with some colours or whatever it is. And so I got an amazing grounding in how you communicate difficult concepts. And of course, from my point of view, being a graphic designer, it was through type and visuals. And that has underpinned everything in my business ever. That's what's helped me when the rules have changed or the playbook didn't work anymore. Or, so I ended up doing an MBA later on, and that's all great. But it doesn't help you when things go pear shaped.
Mm.
And I think being a designer is the thing that's helped me the most. And I think it's incredibly interesting now in the land of AI and really interesting things that's happening in the world of work is I don't want to employ an accountant and I don't want to employ a lawyer. Thanks very much. Might need them for certain roles, but I don't want that background. I want designers. I want people who can solve problems. I want people who can think. I want people who can navigate, really look at things that are difficult and come up with solutions and try them. And then if they fail, try something else. And that's what people from the creative backgrounds do. So I feel very strongly at the moment that you shouldn't be doing job ads which say, I want a degree and 4 years experience in, la la la, and you must do like, no. I want a particular person who thinks in a particular way, who is comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity and change. And I want that person right next to me to help me go into the next frontier because it's changing so quickly. And that's what you need in your business. Creative people is what we now need, not somebody who, I mean, my daughter's a lawyer. I told her not to, but she didn't notice. I know a very successful one. And, what she had to learn, books of, well, I can just get AI to read those in 5 seconds. And I don't need
Mm.
that anymore. What her skill is interpreting that. That's a human skill. And she's very good at that bit. And she's very good at changing and thinking laterally and all those sorts of things. Her background knowledge of the law is not her skill.
Mm.
Um, so being brought up as a designer has really helped me in my business. And as that went through, and as you think about it, so I started off in advertising agencies, it's like, how do I get somebody to be interested in my product or my service as opposed to this one over here or as opposed to this one? So the differentiation can only work when you understand people's behaviors and attitudes. Um, so why is somebody looking for this solution? What is it that they're so get it right inside their brain, and then I can communicate to them. But most communication is just, I think this, and I'll just push it out. Well, it's not going to work, is it? Unless
I-
somebody's exactly a replica copy of you, that is not going to work. So that's been my understanding of business, underpinning the traditional, you know, account. I'm obviously do finance. I know about blah blah. But underpinning that's been that. How do we put ourselves in the place of the customer? How do we communicate to them?
yeah, I
That's
love
it, and that's it.
that principle, which you described so well, and it's obviously such a core principle of everything from the point decisions being made with the customer in mind. Like it's all about the customer,
Mhm.
and it's not about what do we like, what do we think's cool, how do we like to do things. It's
Well,
what does the customer like? How do they
yeah,
see the world? How do they like things?
yeah. I'll tell you something about HMRC, right? I'm on the board. I was on the board of HMRC. I think they found it a bit challenging for me to be on the board, frankly. But anyway, there's only 7 of us, I think, and it's a 760 billion turnover organisation employing 66,000 people. So we were looking at how do we get more people to pay tax? They call it a tax cap. Tax cap in the UK is smaller than probably any other country in the world. We're very law abiding when it comes to taxes, actually.
Hmm.
But there's still a tax gap, about 5% or so, they've calculated. Half of that is small businesses. And HMRC will very willingly tell you a lot of that's accidental. It's not necessarily people aren't trying to avoid it. It's just that they.
Mm.
So, at a meeting, I would go self-assessment tax form, right? Who designs these things? Who designs this tax form? Oh well, we have a panel of people, and right, okay, really, yeah, and we don't understand why people use accountants to do it. I go, I've got an MBA, I run a tax company, I can't fill out this. I don't
Yeah,
understand it, and I'm
yeah,
not stupid, and English is my first language, right? I can't fill this in. I cannot believe that you have put that in front of you know, Barbara the hairdresser, my auntie Eileen,
yeah,
and alert and ask them if they can navigate it because I know you haven't.
yeah,
Who have you tested it with?
yeah,
So it's like if you want to sort the tax gap out, get real people, put yourself in their mindset, look at how they speak, what words they use, la la la. Then we can design a self-assessment tax form. I feel like saying, if you let me design a self-assessment tax form for you, I think I could. You'd probably get another 40 billion.
yeah.
There you go,
Right.
Rachel. That'll sort you.
Yeah, there you
That'll
go.
sort your debt out, love. But like, it's you know, stop pushing stuff out and think about how you pull people in, and go and sit with 15 people in their gaff, not in you've got them in to do some research. Sit in their gaff and look at how they do it, and then try and work it out. So it's not difficult, Sam, and it's not particularly intelligent. It's just obvious.
Well, it is. It is when you say it like that. It is obvious, but I
It's
was,
obvious.
it's like I'm even just as you're saying, it's like I'm confronted with all the ways in which I'm just putting things out because that's what I'm into, or what that's the way I like to do things, and needing to continuously kind of go, no, let's just put this, let's see this from my client's point of view.
Well,
How do they
yeah,
like to do it?
yeah, but there are 2 points of view. And neither of these are right, and it depends on the situation. If you want to get sales, you want to bring stuff in,
Mm,
you're gonna have to find who your niche is and what it is and what they like.
mm,
The alternative to that, which is probably in our position when you're a bit older, is like, "This is how I do things.
mm.
I don't particularly need to make a living anymore," or whatever it is, and if it resonates with other people, I'm really happy with that, which is what the book is actually.
Mm,
And therefore there are different situations, and it might be, Sam, that in your situation, like, this is how I do things. I only want to work with people who are like me. I only want to do it, da 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 da. And that is where I'm going to set my stall out. And if that's your strategy, that's good. But
mm.
if your strategy is something else, then maybe you have to start with the customer and work your way back. So it depends on your situation.
So what? Okay, what about reflecting on that same challenge for the leader, let's say, because my context in terms of my clients is like they're leaders in large organizations. And there's that same tension, isn't there, for the leader in terms of how they work with their teams. Like, to what extent are they needing to sit in their team's seat and go, how does the world look like for you guys? And then to what extent are they going, this is the way we're going to do things?
So first of all, it's about values. So values, if you're at the top, values and what you stand for is really important because it's how we do things around here. So if you've got somebody who's throwing their weight about, undermining their colleagues, like, we don't do that around here. If you want to get on, you need to change that behaviour or get out, one or the other, because we don't do things like that around here. And at the top, you must set the culture of what is acceptable, what the boundaries are. It's just like having kids. It's like, oh, well, I know where I know where I sit. I know where the rules are. I know where the boundaries are. Holding on to culture as you get bigger is really hard, but creating culture is what your job is as a leader. Then everybody knows what's acceptable in terms of behaviour. Everybody have different styles, but that style must fit inside your culture and your values. When you're teaching people how to manage, especially when they're not used to managing, they need to understand the person they're managing and what switches them on. So, for example, I had a person working for me, hates being recognised publicly. Oh my God, just can't stand it. Hates it. So never actually putting her in a position where you're praising her in front of other people. She can't cope with it. Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't mean to say you can't do that in other ways, right? One-to-one or personally or whatever. Just send a really nice note, anything like that. Very happy with that. I had another bloke who worked with me, Paul's 6'8". I would refuse to speak to him unless he was sitting down. Covered in tattoos, piercings. One of the best people who's ever worked for me. He was just an amazing guy. I don't want any of that fluffy nonsense. Don't want any of the, touchy feely. No, don't want any of that. That's fine, because for his job, he was doing all sorts of stuff. So you don't change the culture and values of what is acceptable, so everybody absolutely knows. But as managers, you just tweak your style to get the best out of people. And that's when you need to understand them a little bit, what works for them and what doesn't. If you've got, I know they're not called appraisals anymore, but whatever they're called now, that's the sorts of questions that you ask. What is it, what makes you feel uncomfortable? What doesn't? What spurs you on? What are you doing that's really annoying you? Is there anything I'm doing that's really annoying you? And try to get to understand people. You don't want to know their personal life. That's got nothing to do with you. You're not their mother. But it's trying to, how can I get the best out of you at work? Some things you can sort and other things you can't. But the overall culture is what you set at the top. And you do not let anybody go outside that culture. Because if they do, people will watch. And if you don't do anything about it, they go, oh, well, I can do that.
Yeah, gosh, there's a lot there.
It's not really. It's like, you do the culture and then try and get the best out of your people by understanding them better.
Yes, but culture is an interesting thing, isn't it? So, but there is a lot there, because I think one of the things that bosses are challenged with, or let's say leaders, chiefs, whoever, is trying to navigate those lines, but in terms of what's being required of me to enable the best, from my people. And on the one hand, like, getting to know them and really understanding, who they are and what they're about, how to motivate individuals, because that can be quite individual. And then maybe that sometimes is understanding what's going on for them personally, right?
No, it's not. It's not. Do not go down that rabbit hole. I don't care if somebody, their best friend's a blow-up doll called Mandy, who they love on a Saturday night. I just don't care. I couldn't care less. And this is where we're getting into so much trouble, Sam, is that we're going, oh, well, it's like, no, all I'm here for is to make your day at work the best I can. I'm not interested in the rest. So if you say, like, I'm having some real issues at home at the moment, I'm a little bit delicate, great. Don't want to know about issues? You're feeling a bit delicate at the moment. How can I help that at the moment? I've got a really stressful thing coming up, and I think I might, I might flunk it because
Okay.
I'm not feeling great. Okay, well, let's give you some stuff to help. I don't need to know what the issues are. And that's where employers are getting themselves into trouble at the moment. And that's where people are saying, yeah, but you're biased. I'm not. So it's like,
Yeah.
you must cut that down. You just say, I don't want to know about your personal life. I want to understand how it manifests itself at work and to see if there's anything I can do to help you. But I'm not your mum. So I'm not interested.
You're not
I'm being
you're not
but
their
I will
mum,
put
but
stuff in place for you. I will put stuff in place for you. I mean, I had somebody who had a particular problem and they said, I'm really struggling. I need 2 weeks off. Well, okay, how can we do that? What do you want us to do when you get back? Blah, blah, blah. I can sort that out, but I'm not interested in what it is because you would just die under the pressure of it, of people's personal issues.
oh, okay, I
You
see.
die under it.
I
You'll just
see.
die under it.
Yeah.
I only deal with your issues in the work context, and I
Sure.
see how I
Okay.
can accommodate it.
Yeah. Again, it's quite fine distinction, isn't it? Because you're not
It's
saying
very, but
you're,
be
you're
really strong about it.
but you're not
You
saying that.
die under the expectation of people's personal lives otherwise.
Yeah. Right. Okay. But they're fine distinctions because you're not saying that the fact that someone's, I don't know, going through a bereavement or whatever's going on in their world that's really rattled them from, they're destabilized. Obviously, that's relevant because
Yeah.
it's impacting how they're showing up at work, and and as a human being, you have compassion and all of that. But
Yeah, and then you say, "So how can I help you? What is gonna
exactly,
help you?"
exactly.
Now, I had somebody whose mother died, and she came to me, she said, "My mum's died, la, la. I can deal with it. I do not want to talk about it. I don't want anybody asking me about it. I don't That's the only way I can cope. Is if I go to work and I just pretend it hasn't happened. That helps me." Well, okay, fine. If that's,
Yeah,
that's your thing.
yeah.
Somebody else might say, "I'm really struggling with this. I need some extra time off. I might have to do 2 days a week because 'cause I've got all this stuff to sort out." La, la, la." Fine, then just deal with it. But I'm not there as a counselling service about somebody whose parents has died. I'm
Right.
not qualified for a start, but I can say what is it that I can do at work to help you through that? That's
That
all you need
I
to do.
think I'm understanding the distinction you're making there, Susie. Now, so because I was relating to it as from the point of view is that sometimes I'm brought in as that additional support because someone is
Fine.
going through something. But I get the
Mm,
point you're saying. No, but as the leader,
you
you
can't.
you
You'll
can't be
just pull
taking you
yourself
can't
down.
be that additional support. You can be saying,
It's
how can I
hard
be
enough being
helpful?
it's
Yes.
hard enough being the leader as it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
How
yeah.
can I be helpful at work?
Yes. Okay.
And we had employee assistance programs. So, if someone's going like, we've got an employee assistant, ring that number. It's confidential. They'll probably be
Mhm.
able to help you.
Yeah.
It's not my job.
Yeah, 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 because otherwise you just become
Can't.
overwhelmed by
Yeah, you will be.
yeah, okay.
And also it's a consistent approach, Sam. And employees hate inconsistency where you treat one person a different way to other. And if
Mhm.
they know this is how you approach things, it's like it's fair and it's consistent with everybody.
It's a really nice distinction. In fact, I'm just thinking of someone, who like, I think that challenge, that people find as being the leader, where they do get those lines mixed up and they do feel they start
Yeah.
assuming responsibility, and it's like, what's the message to give to your people? Like, bring me your problems, or don't give, like, I want to be the kind of leader that is open to, like, tell me what's going on for you so I can be helpful. But I don't want to take on, I'm not assuming responsibility for your personal stuff. Or I don't want to create an
Yeah.
environment where, like, you keep bringing me, like, every time something's going wrong in your personal life, you're bringing that to me as a problem that we need to resolve, or
It's
something
not
like
your
that.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Your responsibility is, I'm not interested in that. Love you and all that. Not interested. How can I help you at work? What can we put in place that will really suit you or it's going to help you get through it?
Mm.
That's my job.
I think, Susie, the way you kind of frame things so clearly like that is brilliant. Like you said, you have these three kind of simple operating principles as a leader. Um, and I think at least this is what I extracted was, put the target customer at the center of every decision you make, number one. And then two, recruit great people and develop the positive culture in which they can thrive. Like simple. Number 2,
Yeah.
and
Look
then
after 'em.
and then 3, create that kind of totally immersive brand and message that will basically attract the people who you want to be part of your business, because they kind of go, yeah, that resonates with me. I share your values. I want to be part of that. If you do those
Yeah.
3 things as a leader, you're rocking.
I think if you do a really boring job advert, you're going to get really boring people. If you do a job ad that exudes everything about you, somebody will go, "That's me." And therefore, when they start, you haven't got loads of work to do in search of culture because they already know what the culture is, and that's why they've signed up. So, be very brave about what you exude and the people that you want. And we used to put on our adverts, we only want the sort of people that will make tea and coffee without tutting, you know, make tea and coffee at other people without tutting, and just we would put things like that in. And some people go, "Well, this place is rubbish. Great, I don't want you.
Yeah.
Good, don't apply." But create the personality you've got, because if people apply and they already share what you're doing, you haven't got a lot of work to do with them. They'll be so happy to be somewhere that they just get.
Did you find that equally true in the kind of big core environment as in the kind of SME environment?
No, God, no. I went into Ernst and Young, right, and we were talking about them buying my business, and they got a massive, huge, flashy, big place outside London Bridge, like huge. Like the reception area is like a football pitch.
Yeah.
There's flashy chairs, and then these women on reception, mouthpieces, and all that sort of stuff, and then all the sort of gate things and everything. And I went in there, and I went, "This is not going to work. These guys buying one, it's just not going to work." Uh, anyway, for various reasons, it did.
It
But
did work. Yeah.
one of the things I said to them is, "You would not ever employ any of my people here. They wouldn't even get past reception. You wouldn't even let them.
And they probably wouldn't want
You're,
they
you're already exuding this thing about we want people who've been to Oxbridge or King's College or Imperial, and they must have an accounting degree, and they must look like this, and then it's dressed like this." It's like, that's what you're exuding on. That's not my business. That's not what our business exudes.
Mm.
And that's what they want.
How did you
I
reconcile
think it's
that?
gonna.
Like, how did you get to? Did they just give you enough money that you could say that's okay, or like how did you? How did you?
Sam, how dare you? How very dare
No,
you?
you're very principled. I understand, Susie. Could never do that.
So the deal was, they would keep the office where it was, and it would be separate from EY, because as soon as if it was in there, that culture would disappear immediately. And that they kept all the people, and they kept it local, and they didn't move from that office. And basically, they wanted a separate brand that would deal with small businesses, and they were very smart and knew that their brand couldn't, and their people couldn't do that. And that was the basis of it. And exactly right, that was the right decision for them. Um, so they did realise that they can't create that culture. They have to buy it and then keep it separate.
Did they keep that going, as far as you know?
They did. My timing was pretty smart or lucky, whatever, because we signed in April 2020,
Oh wow.
31st of March 2020, actually, which is COVID.
Yeah.
Now, in big defense of EY, if I'd have still had the company, I would have had to downsize it quite considerably to get through COVID. They didn't. They kept every single staff member on. They absolutely kept it going. And actually, EY taking over the business at that point was a godsend, and they were amazing. And then various things have happened after COVID, HMRC, change the rules, all sorts of other things. So it no longer exists.
Yeah.
So I took 5 years to build it up, and they took 4.5 years for it to go down the path.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, you just don't have the control.
It was through a really tricky time. Honestly, through a really tricky time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I kind of yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's massive context to that. It was really interesting that you set up your business. So let's just set the context. You're 55. You've left your husband of 30 plus years. Finally got out. You're kind of just starting again on all fronts in a way, including putting whatever savings you've got into launching this business at 55, right? Is that a fair
It wasn't quite
context?
like that because I started the business with my husband. He wasn't working in it at the time. Uh, and uh, he then started working in the business, and I found out he was useless. So I'd spent the whole of my career navigating around his career because I thought he was important. I earned loads more than him, but anyway. And then I found out it was crap. He was just so bad.
Yeah.
All right, I had to sack him. That was a good Christmas, that Sam. It's like, you're on P45. And it was all beginning to unravel a bit anyway. So yeah, then I left him, and yeah, so for the last 3 years of the company, I was on my own, and I used all the money I had. Um, yeah,
Oh, okay.
which is
But
pretty stupid, I do admit, but I didn't have anything.
yeah.
I was on my own. I didn't have anything. It would all unraveled drastically personally, and I just thought, I'll bet the money I've got then. Well, I left 50 grand just because I thought I can try and live on that for a year, and I'll just have to
Yeah.
go and get a job again. But no, I did. I just thought, I've just got nothing to lose. Kids are left home, they're fine.
So it's always
I
time.
do understand that was very stupid.
Well, it paid off. It paid off big time, and
Well, we were doing reasonably okay by that stage.
oh, were
And
you? Okay.
so
Okay.
yeah, so we've been going about 18 months. We were doing okay. Uh, so I thought I had a pretty good chance.
Okay. And also, did you kind of set out? You went like, "This is something I'm going to grow. I'm going to build it in a short period of time, and then I'm going to sell." Like
Yeah.
that was always
Yeah,
the
yeah, no,
plan.
I deliberately set it up to sell it. I do a lot of like mentoring at the moment, and first thing I say to somebody is, "What's your exit plan?" Like, "Oh, don't know." It's like, well, you're not going to make your business succeed if you don't know how you're going to get out. So, are you going to grow it and stay with it forever?
Mhm.
Are you going to do it short term and then sell it? Are you going to do it and give it to your kid? You must start off knowing where you're going to end,
Yeah.
and then you've got a really good trajectory then because you know exactly what you've got to do. Because I started it to sell it. Every decision I made, I thought, what would this look like to a buyer? What would this look like to the buyer of the company? What value
Mm.
would it have to the buyer of the company? And it just helped shape your decisions. Um, so yeah, I started off with that deliberate intention.
I love that. I think that's so good, isn't it? Like framing it's the right question, asking the right question gives you the right strategy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so for example, if you said, I want to build this up because I want to give it to my children, I want them to
Mm.
succeed me, then obviously your decisions are different because you're trying to really embed, longevity, making it really stable.
Mm.
Whereas I was trying to absolutely massively go for profit because I know that's what a buyer's looking for. So if you don't know the end point, you're not going to have the right strategy. And strategy is personal, so you don't need to tell anybody about
Mhm.
it. But it shapes it shapes your strategy.
It's a bit of a sort of sidebar, but it makes me think how one of the things I've done working with so I work with the chief in a large business, and then I may, as a result of that, end up doing some work with their senior leadership team, and there's a really nice thing that it's so simple, but it's kind of like asking the right question that it seems to be so effective, which is, can we just figure out what actually really creates value? In terms of the work you're doing, what really creates
Yeah.
value? And then, because then you get the right answer for like, what should we be doing?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy, isn't it, to just go into this kind of autopilot of like, this is the work we do.
Yeah, no,
And,
absolutely.
and in the same way, like running a business, like, well, this is how you run a business. It's like, well, no, not if it's not if the idea is to sell it, then we need to be
Yeah,
doing it the
so
same way.
I saw this really nice lady who's got a business and doing it for a while, and then she's like, I need to sell it in the next 4 to 5 years. Okay, let's go and have a look at all your finances, what you're doing, la la la. She's really good at what she does. And then I'm not at a profit. It's like, what is that your profit? Yeah, yeah, that's a profit. I said, honestly, just go and work in Waitrose. You'll earn more money.
Mhm.
She was going, "You can't say that." I went, "Well, it's true. Look, you're not making any money. What's the point? You're stressed. You work 5 days a week. You're only." She had some rental properties, just getting income from that, so it sort of masked the fact that this business wasn't really making any money. Anyway, I thought, "Oh, I might have gone a bit over the top there." Anyway, next week she rang me up. I went round there. She completely transformed the whole of what she was doing, just visually. Did all sorts of other stuff. She said, "I've looked at this." She said, "You're right. Why am I doing that there? I'm stopping that. I'm having it completely," because she's a really bright lady, because she's just been so into it, just head down, just doing it, doing it, doing it. Suddenly you go, somebody with an external perspective can really, as you say, you might point out some of the things you're doing and they're going, "Oh yeah, of course, of course." But everybody's just got their head down. So the value of having somebody externally just asking the right questions is really important.
Well, I think you said it, Susie, which is, that drive to continuously be removing and simplifying in the
Yeah.
business. Like,
Oh
just
yeah.
let's
That's all
not,
I ever
like,
do when I go and
why,
see
why,
people.
why,
It's go,
why are
"What
we
are you
doing
doing
it?
that over there
Yeah,
for?
yeah,
What's that over? What's Bill doing?" Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there are. It's interesting. I think there's, for me, the kind of principles you describe as being very core in setting up and building a business. I actually do think they translate into the big core environment too. Maybe big core tends not to be very good at it, but
I
but
just think
they
they're rubbish at it. They just
it
get too complicated.
get too complicated. Yeah.
It's way too complicated for no reason. I mean, I go into government a lot. I want to scream. Like, I really want to scream. Why have you got that? It's just, you haven't questioned it. So what they'll do, what Reeves is doing at the moment, she'll say every government department's got to save 5%. That's just stupid. That's just so stupid, because it means that the really high functioning departments have got to shave 5% off. That doesn't make any sense. The crap ones, you could probably get rid of entirely.
Mm,
So you should constantly question why and it's not to make people redundant. That's not what it's about. It's about, how do we stay fit? How do we stay lean? How do we concentrate on what we're doing? How can we make sure the outputs are right? And that's what I'm saying creative people are good. It's like, right, I know, Doreen, I know you were good at this. Now you're over there now, because we're
mm.
slightly shaping it different. Not constantly getting another employee, doing this, doing that. Have great people who are going to shift with you. Just keep it simple, keep focused, and always ask yourself, why are we doing that again? What's bringing in the value? And doing a blanket 5% cut, no, not great, not smart. No.
Do you
It's a
think
recipe for
that's something?
disaster.
Do you think, I mean, like that, this, you're describing the skills that are needed now, and that's because that sort of need to be continually iterating is so much more prevalent now, isn't it? Like you've got to be
That's why
willing to keep evolving, keep changing.
And that's why the book started with the context, because I wanted to show how different it is. And if you want to stick your feet back in the past, good, but you're not going to grow. So showing that journey is really important. It's like, all right, I've got to change myself. I've got to reiterate.
Mm.
I've got to learn stuff. I mean, when AI came out, I spent weeks learning ChatGPT, learning all sorts of stuff, because I want to know about it. I
Mm.
want to understand it.
Yeah.
I need to know about it.
And then you need to have the kind of curiosity and the agility and all these good words.
Curious.
Yeah, curiosity. Yeah,
Hmm.
um, yeah. It's really fascinating, because I think you are describing challenges that I think people I'm working with are being met with all the time. Actually, even though the context is different,
Get
it's
yourself a great band of people who are really clear about your vision and what you value and what you want to do and how you want to look after them, and then bring them all with you.
yeah.
That's your job.
And then you also talk about playing to strengths. I love that principle too. Like, play to strengths. Don't waste time and energy trying to get people to do things that they're inherently not necessarily very good at. Like, find out what are the inherent qualities and strengths, and then leverage those.
Yeah, so I worked for Barclays Bank for a while, which was awful. Didn't really suit me, as I'm sure you can imagine. Anyway, and we went all these training programs all the time, looking at your weaknesses. I mean, in some respects, it was good for my career because, like, I got better at some things. But it's like I suddenly reached the conclusion that when you're always focusing on what somebody's bad at and trying to get them better at something they're bad at, they start losing their confidence. And it's like, do they really need to do that bit of their job? That's a better question to ask.
Mm.
So we had somebody who's not a great completer finisher. Oh my God, do they power through stuff? They'll power through stuff good enough, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And, get through all this stuff, process this stuff that we needed, But so rubbish at finishing it off and being really good at detail at the end. So instead of spending the whole time trying to get her to be good at that when inherently she wasn't, it's like, when you're not great at that bit, love. You should go, yeah, okay, I admit it. Right, oh, what's it? Loves a bit of completer finishing.
Yeah.
They love it, love going for it. So you keep powering through that, and then they're going to check all your stuff at the end to make sure it's all perfect. And why would you not do that than spend ages with this wonderful person who's not great at the last bit?
And then you then see the outcome as like there's more productivity, there's more output.
Yeah. So appraisals used to say, what do you hate doing? What bit of your job do you hate doing? Now, some of it you have to do even if you hate it, sorry, but there might be stuff that you hate doing that you're really bad at. And then we'd flex a bit around, I'll go, oh, they're good at that. Do you want to do that bit? Yeah, I'll do that bit. But it's really important that people aren't territorial about their work. It's like this is an end process. We're saying you're amazing at that, not so good at that. We'll get somebody to do that bit for you. Not them going, oh well, that's for this is my bit. There's no such thing in our company. Everybody's bit is everybody's bit.
That not being territorial is such an interesting thing, Susie, because to me that speaks to the need for everyone. I think people get territorial basically when they're insecure. And we've all got.
Or there's a blame culture.
Right? Okay. So say more about that. What does that mean? Why would people get territorial if there's a blame culture?
Because they want to keep control, and it means they can hide stuff if there's blame flying about. Yeah. Very government actually.
Oh.
Very blame orientated culture. And quite justifiable because the press are all over them all the time trying to pin something on somebody. Not helpful.
Yeah. So then,
whereas for me, what's really important is if everybody's sharing little bits of each other's jobs, like somebody go, you're doing that. I think I've got a better idea of doing that. And instead of them going, well, it's my bit, bugger off, it all becomes everybody's responsibility if they've got an idea to share it.
Well, so again, I think that just translates so well, like from the micro to the macro. So even, in the C-suite, the difference between a C-suite that really is working cooperatively like that, because they don't have that territorial nature, which comes from, I think, feeling a bit insecure, or could be blame, or could be whatever it is, right? Like, I'm expert in my area and it's my area and keep away. Two, we're all in it together. If I can, I'm thinking cross-functionally, if I can see something that would help you, I'm going to absolutely do, offer that. I'm receptive the other way around, right?
Exactly. Yeah, as long as you're not doing it in the wrong in the wrong forum. So if you're trying to show off and give a suggestion to somebody, make them look small in front of other people, not a great idea. If you've got a really good team, somebody just go up to somebody while they're having a coffee and say, just really go, what do you think? And it's about how you do things and when you do them that's important, I think. So yeah, that's what you want. Well, I'm on quite a few boards, and I find it quite interesting because so on charity boards, they're such lovely people, but they don't challenge each other. No. I'm going, right, first board meeting, right, first of all, we're all too polite. Can we stop all that, please?
Yeah.
I know we're all British, but can you stop all that? If you don't agree with something, can you say, we need some great debate because we need to test stuff. We need to test things and how they're going. If you're all too polite, and that is where you're going to get catastrophic failure. It's because it's like, well, I better not ask that. So if you haven't got challenge, really good constructive challenge done in the right way going on, you're going to come across a crisis that you've missed, honestly.
So that's one end of the spectrum where people aren't challenging because they're too polite. And then maybe the other end of the spectrum would be they're not challenging because they're too fearful. I mean, you could say being
Yeah,
polite's maybe being a bit fearful, but you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's like we're an autocracy here. And
yeah,
and
yeah.
and in some ways it seemed like part of the motivation to set up your own business was because you were just fed up with the kind of boardroom bollocks, really, of like,
Absolutely. I mean, you can tell how straight talking I am. I think I'm a really simple person. It's like, I don't want to play these stupid games. I just can't. And as I get older, I just can't be bothered.
yeah,
Can I just create my own culture?
yeah,
I mean, I think more that was the driver of starting it than anything else. I want to create my own culture and to see if it can work. Where you really look after people, uh, you can get a great bunch of people around you. We can have a really good time and work hard and it be successful. And we were hugely, I mean, EY could not believe
yeah.
our net profit. Couldn't believe it. That's because these people are humming. But, that's why the net profit's so good.
So it was, and you were kind of you were creating this team in such a novel way. And I remember the first time we met, and that was the first thing that I really latched onto. It's like the way that you approached your recruitment so differently, and built your team so differently. It just was such a different approach, but really effective.
No, I just want to get the right people. I don't care what they've done. We never used to get like references or anything like that. It doesn't matter. Just was really interested. What films do you like? What would you do if this happened? I want to know if they fit the culture. Don't care what they've done. We can teach them.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter. I mean, if they're a brain surgeon, that's a different matter. But we're not recruiting brain surgeons. We're just recruiting people who would be great in an office.
yeah.
We used to get hundreds of applicants, so many amazing people, and they just used to go, "I just want a chance. Please, will you give me a chance?" They used to be soul destroying sometimes. Just want to do well, give me a chance. And most times businesses beat it out of people.
You mean beat out before they even get in the door, or beat out once they're in the door?
Both really. But just like this is the rule here and you can't do this and you can't say that. And I was like, for God's sake. We didn't have a company without rules. It's just like if everybody knows the culture, they know what they can do and what they can't do. You don't have to have a rule book.
So I think that, okay, that culture thing, if we could just land on that for a second, because to me that's so fascinating. Because I think there are probably, well, there's many parts to it, but let's say there are two faces to it. So one is the sort of stated, like you see, we're really clear about what we tolerate, what we don't, what we encourage, what our values are. We're really clear about that. And then we put that into practice, in all sorts of ways where you get that message. So that's one part of it. The other part of it, I think, is more kind of hidden, which is just like it's what you embody, like you, and hopefully those two things are aligned. So what you're saying,
Hope so.
and then who you are and what you're doing, what you're embodying.
Yeah.
I think that embodying part to me is in a way the more intriguing bit, because does tend to be hidden, and sometimes even the leader themselves doesn't realize what they're embodying, and so they're going, "Hey, this is what I stand for, and this is what we need in our business, and then this is what us as an executive committee, what we're wanting to encourage in the organization, because that's what's required for us to be successful." But they may not be aware of actually what their internal kind of paradigm is. And that's the thing that ends up communicating, right? So if I say, "Hey, we want to be really collaborative," but I've got a thing inside of me where I just have some insecurity about my performance, and I tend not to be collaborative in ways that I don't even realize. But that's the thing that ends up communicating, right, through the business.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, it's like anybody can come up to me and give me a suggestion. Then I'll have a think about it, or I'll, whatever. So that's one thing. Then as you get bigger, people go, "Oh, I better not talk to her because like she's a bit busy and we're getting bigger and she's the boss." So then you must actively go out and do that. So either in meetings or whatever, go. So what do you think of that? Do you think we're doing that wrong, or you know? Do it the other. Don't expect people just to come to you. So you must exhibit it in every way you can, and give people permission to do those things actively, not passively. Actively give them permission. And so, I'm chair of a few boards. Like I would say, I haven't heard from you for half an hour. There's obviously stuff going on in your head. What do you think? Or whatever. And then sometimes I would get staff and they go, "Oh well, no, I haven't really got anything." Oh, come on. There must be something that's really, really annoying you. Come on, tell me. And then eventually they'll say. So it's for you to make that happen. And as you get
after it.
more important, people get a little bit reticent. So you must be really approachable, and you must ask. Yeah, and you must be approachable. So the classic thing I used to say to my staff is, you go to a restaurant and they go, "Is everything all right?" And then they're, before you can say anything. I went to stay at this place, and this is what shaped it for me. I was staying at an amazing place in the middle of nowhere and up in the hills of Spain. And when I checked out, the woman said, "What's wrong with your room?" And I went, "Oh, nothing. No. Oh, there must be something wrong." She said, "There must be. Did we clean it properly? What about did you like the soap? Did you?" She actively wanted to find out if there was anything she could improve. And I thought, that's how you do it. That's how you make improvements. Not by saying, "Is everything all right?" Does everybody go, "Yeah," because we're British. Where's back and go,
But it's brave.
food's cold.
It's brave. It's brave to ask that question, isn't it? Like you've got to be feeling pretty secure about yourself to ask that question.
People want to tell you. People do want to tell you if you'll let them.
Yeah. So if you're I love that. I know, because I realized as you said that, Susie, like with my kids, I will tend to kind of go, "All good," and that's it. Like I don't like, and they go, "Yeah." I go, "Okay, cool." And so I'm
You
gonna
say, "Are you having a bad day today?" Completely different question.
Yeah. Mm. So really, really, really kind of dig for
Inviting.
invite
You're
it.
inviting suggestions, really. That's what you're doing.
So if you're a CEO of a really big business, like I get if you're the chair of a
Give
board.
up. Give up.
Seriously.
Go and start your own.
Really?
No, I'm only joking. Go on.
Well, like so you're chair of a board, you can connect to everyone around the table. If you're running an SME, I don't know what the volumes of employees are, but there's a point at which you sort of, as the boss, you can still be kind of visible and connect with, make yourself available. But as the scale gets bigger,
I think it's 15, 20 people. And then as soon as you don't know everybody's name, that's when it becomes difficult.
Okay. So then if, let's say let's just imagine, Susie, like I know you're not going to put yourself in this position, although you probably go and you work with, organizations that are in this position where there are thousands of employees. How do you then, as a leader, kind of embody that or like create that?
So you have a team underneath you that completely share it.
Yeah.
So if you've got 5 or 6 people in your management team, your leadership team, they have absolutely got to understand the culture. Absolutely, and make sure it goes downwards. So it then becomes, so maybe they've got 20 people in their department, and then they become the figurehead of that. So that's how it works. They are the guardians, they are the torch holders of the culture and the values. And you must spend a lot of time as a leader making sure they get it and they act exactly as you want them to. You must do that. That's your job as a leader.
That makes so much sense to me. That kind of network.
They're your soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can only that's why to me it's always seemed like as above, so below. Like if you're trying to do any kind of change in an organization, you can't just go in at the middle and go, "Hey guys, this is how we're going to operate now. This is what everyone wants. This is how everyone wants you to operate." So no, it's got to start at the top. It can't,
without doubt. And then no, it can't. And then your senior leadership team, they're the ones who then carry that flame. And if you're going to do big change, the first question somebody will ask is why, not how. Why? So you must know how that fits in your culture and why you need to do it. Then you tell them how.
Love it, Susie. Gosh, there's so much I could spend a lot more time just going into these principles, but we haven't got.
I need a cup of tea soon.
Exactly.
So.
We haven't got much more time. So can I just ask you, Susie, when you're like, so now what's your kind of mission now? I know you've got particular roles that you're doing. Is there a kind of overarching sense of mission and purpose that you have now?
Yeah, so I've been writing quite a lot on LinkedIn. Again, it's a little bit like the book. It's like I just want to try and share some of the things I've learned, and also massive mistakes I've made as well. Just a small business snippets about. So I've written one about what is EBITDA, right? Those are people ask me that question. It's like, okay, this is what EBITDA is in English, and this is why it's important, and this is the point at which you shouldn't just don't worry about it. But here you should worry about it, and this is what it means. And I've tried to make them funny and relatable and easy to understand. So at the moment, those are on LinkedIn and doing very well. So for example, this week, 20,000 impressions, Sam. That's quite a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
About should you take your dog to work? I know it's silly, but it's a really good question. It's a really good question. Some people hate dogs, some people are allergic, So it's just it's just doing these things that we all have to deal with. More and more and more things we have to deal with as leaders and managers. So I'm just hoping these small snippets will help.
By the way, is that just that's on your LinkedIn feed? So you're just pushing that out on your Susie Warran-Smith?
Or if you go to susiews.com, it's all on the blog page. All of those are on the blog, and I've tried to make them like a funny but a repository, where if you're looking at something, so I done a thing about you should be recruiting creatives, something we just talked about, not a lawyer or an accountant, and explaining why that's important at the moment. So I've been trying to do those. But I'm specifically aiming really at older women like me, old farts, who are currently over 50, women over 50, are currently starting more businesses than any other age group, which I think is quite interesting. And therefore, my mindset is a particular mindset because of my age and my upbringing. So I think that would really help them in the particular space that they're in. What I do probably won't relate to someone who's in their 30s or a tech bro or whatever is going for it, but there might be stuff in there that they would find helpful. But what I'm trying to do is help people later in their life who are starting businesses, just helping with some guidance on practical, really, really practical things that might help.
This is another podcast, but just like what would be let's say the kind of 1 to 3 like big hurdles that customer is confronted with?
Rubbish at finance.
Okay.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't do numbers. If I hear that again, I'll scream. No, I don't do numbers. You have to. You can't be a business person unless you do. So a lot of the mentoring I do at the moment is, can we just get you to understand what your accountant's giving you? And understand it. And then they go, oh, I feel so much in control. Yeah, of course you do. You manage all your home finances. If you've got a mortgage, what's left at the end of the week. You know how to do this. You know about cash flow. You're just not framing it in that way. And so just teaching people how to manage their business. So finance is one. Marketing, business development, making yourself visible is another one. And then the absolute really important thing is the business model. Is this a business model that's going to work? And what are the processes underneath that are going to make it work? And is it scalable? And so those are the three. So I call them money, marketing, methodology. If you can get those three right, I've got a model that works. I know how to promote myself, and I know about the figures. You're going to be okay.
Amazing. And so people can connect with you on that through LinkedIn and through the website?
Yeah.
Okay. And then are you doing that? Are you working with people individually, or are you putting them into groups and taking them through a program, or how are you doing it?
Occasionally do mentoring stuff, but that's on the website too. Try not to do too much of that, but I do try and help if I can. And then I'm on the board of the British Library. We've had a major cyber attack, and the recovery of that's been really, really difficult. So I'm helping the board out on that. And I'm chair of Creative United, which is new for me, and I'm loving it. So it's chairing a body that's sticking up for creatives, which is where I started in the first place.
I love it. I love that you're doing that. And I've been really enjoying those LinkedIn posts as well. And just lastly, Susie, there's something that I think you've observed, which is that the kind of SME or the small business, the successful sort of small business, is actually a real engine in the economy, and also if it's done well by good people doing good work, it's a values driver as well. Could you just reflect on that for a second? What's your observation there?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do at the moment is lobby government in terms of what I call small businesses, but micro businesses.
Mhm.
So we have legislation for SMEs, but SMEs are companies with under 250 employees. And so the legislation's saying for someone who's got 200 employees and turns over 40 million, for Barbara who's got hairdressers down the road with 4 people, it just doesn't work. And they're being stifled badly, really, really badly. And so what I'm really interested in doing is working with Federation of Small Business and working with government, all that sort of stuff. Is like, how can we have a regime that helps them get stable, and then you can tax them to death if you want. But we need to get them there in the first place. We need to get them stable. There's quite a lot of research that shows that once somebody gets to 5-6 person business, you've got a much better chance of success. But when they're in the 1 to 4 to 5, they're really, really vulnerable. And yet they are the engine of innovation. And Brits are amazing at being innovative, but they don't then break into that next level. So I'm really keen to try and work with people and get people to understand that this is a separate bunch of people. You can't legislate the same as you do for somebody who's turning over 40 million. It doesn't work. And so can we find ways of incentivizing people when they're at their most vulnerable so that they do come on to, because failure rates are terrible, Sam, as you know, small businesses. How can we provide a much more of a support system for them to get to that point? And at the moment, honestly, it's not worth starting a business. It's too hard. It's being made really hard.
That's
And
just
you've got to
so
stop
sad
it.
to hear. That's so sad
It
to
is
hear.
really, but it is. The national insurance stuff, and like, why would somebody? I wouldn't start a business at this point in time in the way that I did, uh, 7 or 8 years ago. I wouldn't make it.
Oh, that's
You've
really
got to
depressing,
look at
man.
it.
I just
Well,
when
it wouldn't though. Why would it? It's too much. It's too much. We can't. It's fine. Layer that on when they've got to a point where they can handle it.
yeah.
It's too much when there's because the person who's running a business when there's 1 to 4 is the person who's doing everything. They're doing everything. They're not only filling out all these bloody forms and doing all their taxes, but they're also trying to run the business and they've got, just starting to employ people. You can't expect that person to do all those things. And then you say, well, productivity is not very high. Oh, wonder why? They're filling all these bloody forms in all the time at a time when they least can cope with it. Layer all that on later when people can absorb it.
Oh, well,
That's all
Susie,
I'm asking.
I really
That's all I'm
hope
asking.
you can move the dial on that. That would be amazing. That really would. Yeah.
Probably not. I'll try.
Susie, thanks so much. This has been fantastic. And there's
Nice. Good to see you again, Sam.
yeah, really nice to see you. I really appreciate you taking the time. And there's so much more that we could get into, but this has been wonderful. Thank you.
Good.